Welcome to the studio. I'm glad you met with me today. Look at those lovely colors and that wet in wet blending. Isn't it amazing? Well, without any more delay, let me show you what we are doing today. We have 4 projects that I created simultaneously, and on the side are 2 cards I created a while ago, and I've just added them for a little bit of aesthetically pleasing stuff to look at. And next up, we are using 1 sheet of watercolor paper and masking off into 4 quadrants. These quadrants will each form one of the pictures you saw earlier. I measure out a strip that will cover the side I'm busy with, and then just de-glue them a little bit on the sleeve of my jacket. This will give you enough stick value to put your piece into quadrants, but it will also peel off easier once we are done. Sometimes when the glue on our sellotape or masking tape or washi tape is too sticky, it can tear into the page, especially if you're in a little bit of a hurry. Here I'm also marking out an average center area. Now if you use a standard A4, it will possibly be 10.5 or 10.5 centimeters to the center, and on the long edge it will be round about 14.5 centimeters. But you can do the measurements yourself. I'll start off with a script brush because it has a thin point, and I just want some line work that will represent stems. With your selected color, just draw them out randomly while wiggling and jiggling your brush strokes as you move across each section. Try not to crowd every block, because you still want to leave room for the flowers and the leaves and maybe a little bit of extra details. I nearly aimed for my teacup there, so I'll move it to the right, from the right to the left hand side, just in case I want to dip in there again. What I'm doing now is loosening up the old colors that are on this palette. These are just a few colors I put together for another project into an empty container, and they are a mix of things I needed for that project, and I haven't worked on them again. And it's also one of the projects that I cannot show you because it is for work done. Now I'm loosening them up because I want to mix up the color palette that we are going to use in this project. I mixed up orange with a little bit of the colors that's in the palette to create orange, and then a berry burgundy color as well. And here I'm just mixing up my lightest shade of pink just to have the 3 variants of colors for flowers. Looks like I decided to make one slightly yellower and the other one pinker. That means I've got 4 colors for the flowers now. I'm shuffling through these colors to see which ones look like green. As you know, many of the darker cakes don't reveal their color until you wet them and have them on a white surface. So I'm going to mix up one dark green and a lighter green as well. You'll see the color metamorphosize as I discover new colors in the palette that I add and sometimes take away, until I reach the perfect shade to fit in with my floral colors. Time to swatch them out on a scrappy little piece that is part of a cut-off from another project. So I always keep my cut-offs so that I can do these little color experiments to get a wider overview of what the colors will look like together. If you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I use limited palettes very often, and that just brings your whole project together in an aesthetically pleasing manner. Don't you just love watching the colors mix and flow into each other? There is something magical about watercolors and the way they move and play together. Tell me what your favorite part is. I'd love to hear in the comments. And just when you thought I had enough colors on there, I had to put in a little bit of indigo. It seems like when we have midtones, the only way to elevate your image or the thing you are busy with is by having a lighter value and also having a really strong, deep, saturated value. That way you have interest in your pieces and your colors will pop off the page. The brush I'm using here is a cat's tongue brush, and not many of you may have that, but a round or a pointed round will also do. Make sure you angle your brush at different angles so that you can get different marks from each stroke. Note how I also dip the brush into the varying shades of the green so that I can get a variety of colors. Creating these playful scattered leaves is a whole bunch of fun, and even if you just try it once to see where it will take your little piece, and if you are following along, just be expressive and try and lay them down randomly. Every time I sit down and paint, I have a fresh cup of tea and I have the fullest intentions of finishing my tea during my painting process. And when I look again, 20 minutes has gone by and my tea is ice cold. Does this ever happen to you? I'm going to keep on using this brush as I've just relaxed into the feeling of it in my hand, and use the petal or blossom colors that I mixed up earlier and create blobs that connect on certain areas and don't connect in others, just to create the illusion of a flower being there. Again, adding variety in the color. If you see one of your flower shapes looking too bland, just pop in a little bit of extra color from the darker or the mid-tone or the lighter shades we mixed up. These flower blobs are also just as randomly placed as our first leaves. If you can remember in a previous video where we did a full sheet of roses, I actually had to go around the edges and fill in the missing flowers. And here I remembered that and are filling them in right up to that sellotape or masking edge. Even though I didn't specifically paint any type of flower here, isn't it interesting that our minds just fill in the gaps and tell us that those are flowers? And these are such beautiful, soft, gentle, loose little blossoms. All I'm going to do now is add in that one dark shade. So it will be a dark green, and I'm also going to change the size of the leaves so that we do have a few variety of things happening on each piece. Again, scattering them around and also changing their shape with this smaller pointed round. You can use the tip of your other brush as well. It just depends on what you feel more comfortable with. Here I'm using the script brush again, and I mixed up a bluer shade of the green just to add some stems to the smaller leaves. They're soft and wispy and barely visible as individual branches or twigs. It's just there to anchor those small leaves. I didn't want them floating around in mid-air, you know. By now those first flowers or the flower blobs are dry, and I'm mixing up fresh batches of those colors so that I can add in a few basic details. See, on this side I'm adding a thick color and then using water to blend it out into soft nothingness. For the center of this flower, I added water first and then a blob of dark color in the inside. This is the perfect time to experiment with all the different watercolor techniques you have learned along the way. I have quite a few videos already showing you different techniques. They are not named, so you don't know which video to watch for what specific technique, but watercolor isn't that difficult to learn, and if you're not a watercolor purist, you can actually use the watercolor to experiment with. I know that I had the most fun in my art career while I was in the experimental phase, learning how to work with my product and how to manipulate it to get a variety of results. So I urge you to use your sketchbooks and your sketchbook journals to do experiments and to have fun. Isn't that why we get into art in the first place? And once we realize that we actually do have talent, then we can take it a little bit further. Now, talking of talent, I do believe that anybody can draw, and I also believe that anybody can paint. If you have any inclination or are drawn in any way to creativity or art or colors or anything creative, then there is an absolute possibility for you to develop a skill. You can be a weekend painter, you can be a hobby urban sketcher. There are so many ways you can use art to incorporate into your daily life where you can learn to harness a certain set of skills and then also apply that in 15 or 20 or 30-minute sessions. It doesn't have to be difficult at all, and everybody has their own style, and you will learn what yours is the more you practice in your sketchbooks. You'll find on my blog there are hundreds of mentions of sketchbooks, as that is the one thing that I truly believe will elevate your art to the next level. If you are not practicing and playing in your sketchbook on the daily or as regular as possible, you are missing out on an opportunity to improve. It's like people playing games. The more you play that game, the better you get at it, until you try a new game and then realize, well, I need some practice for this one too. The same goes for art. The more you practice and the more you put effort into the thing you want to learn or the habit you want to bring in. Let's say you want to use art as a relaxation method. Then sitting down and relaxing with that piece of art or one page in a sketchbook is the very thing you will need to get that habit going. So I wish you the best of luck with your own pursuit of art happiness as you continue on your own creative journey. And I want you to really invest time in your creative practice and use that time to internalize everything you get to learn from every page you create. I also want to take this opportunity to invite you to check out some of my other videos and the future upcoming videos, where I'll also be including drawing in my own sketchbooks as well, and coming up with concepts and being able to expand my own creativity while playing in my new sketchbook journals. You can find them on my website if you are interested, and I'll quickly pop in a little image for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you created 4 little pieces that you are proud of, and that you also learned a thing or two. Join me next time, as I'll be adding more videos about other subjects as well. Alright then, I'll see you next time. Bye, arty friends.